It's James Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I gotta respond to a comment on YouTube because here's another example where when a dad doesn't listen carefully and just hears part of what I'm saying. I don't know what this guy's issue was. Here's part of what I'm saying, or a dad sees something and he's like, oh, I got an argument against that, or I got something that counters what James has said. Let me go off way off on the deep end with what I'm talking about and get on James's page. And then they end up, I'm going to be nice about this. You know, if you're going, excuse me, if you're going, let's say you're leaving Seattle and going to Minneapolis, Highway I-90 goes that route. If you're driving along I-90 and you're using I-90 as a guide, and then you get 1 degree off from I-90, you're about to go all the way. You're about to go all the way across the country from Seattle on the West Coast to Minneapolis or maybe Chicago or something. If you get off 1 degree way back here, by the time you're down here, that 1 degree is a huge gap from your destination. You can tell part of a truth or a little bit of truth or take pieces and totally run with it and have a totally way off occultic false doctrine. So when men can't listen or don't listen carefully or don't listen to what I'm talking about, they get way off. And then what really bothers me about this comment, this guy defends a house slave, the lead attorney, a total sellout to men. And he says, you know, first of all, let me explain. This is my video where I just did a thing saying my page is gender neutral. Then I mentioned the laws are gender neutral. And this guy says that Georgia laws aren't gender neutral because a dad has to go and establish paternity and go to court to get a custody order. Well, if you're fighting with your baby's mom outside of court and you don't work it out, you got to go to court anyway in any state. Georgia just makes an extra step, and yeah, it's a pain in the butt. But this guy just makes a blanket statement that is totally gender neutral because he can't read fully. You guys need to stop talking and making all these definitive statements and conclusions when you don't read the whole law or everything about it. If you go in and you're going to make a cake and you see ingredients including flour, sugar, butter, eggs, this and that, and you don't read all the ingredients, you can come out with a flat cake or a bad taste if you leave the sugar out. Or if you leave, I don't know, yeast or an egg out, it comes out flat. If you leave out some ingredients, or if you leave out something that you're supposed to do, I don't know, when you put a plane together like Boeing, you know, they have parts missing or parts that are faulty. If you leave out something, it can be totally detrimental. So you have to be careful about what the hell you're talking about. And just because you've been in court for 10, 15, 20 years doesn't mean you know jack squat. You could be in there and be totally off because a lot of guys, they're in court 3 or 4 years and they never even read the law. So let's take a look at what this guy said. And what he said ended up being off. Remember I told you, you know, you go somewhere, you head to your destination, you're 1 degree off. By the time you get there, you're way off. You could end up farther than when you first started. This guy is way off, and then he ends up lying to my audience, and this is what I have zero tolerance for. People coming on my page with some false doctrine, and then this guy also defends lead attorney. I mentioned how lead attorney is a sellout because he said the only chance a dad has to get custody is if the mom dies or she's on crack or something, or she gives you custody. And lead attorney actually said in a video on one of his pages, you know, he also talks about paralegals were sucking his stuff and all this other corrupt, crazy stuff. And he's up here laughing and think this is all fun and games, and people are suffering while he's getting rich. He said, I love the thought when I have to face a man who's representing himself in court, he's total lunch meat. I get excited to see that because he knows he could easily destroy him. The lead attorney who talks all this father's rights bullcrap bragged about when he was representing a woman that he could destroy a man who's representing himself. And he took delight in it. This guy's a sicko. And the commenter I'm about to talk about defends this subhuman piece of crap. Then, the lead attorney also said that he represented so many shitty mothers who got full custody even though they didn't deserve it. He's the attorney helping them fight for full custody. And he's like, I can't believe these women keep getting custody, and he's helping them get custody. It's the most insane thing that probably he's ever said, and one of the most insane things I've ever seen. This dude is such a sociopath narcissist, he doesn't have any self-awareness. at how stupid he looks when he's talking about fathers' rights, and he says some true stuff. And then he turns around and says, fathers don't have a chance because women go to court and the court is biased. But he was an attorney on a case, on several cases, where he represented crappy mothers. And he should have done his ethical duties under his oath and the rules of professional conduct to just work with the father and do justice for the kids and negotiate and tell the mom, you're probably better off with a 50-50 plan or something like that. He had the power to do that, but he didn't. He just sell out subhuman, house slave, Stefan, piece of shit. And this guy in the comments is defending him. So when you guys don't listen fully, when you don't listen with an ear to hear and understand, you just hear little stuff. And then sometimes people are like, ooh, James is wrong here. Let me prove him wrong. Because I know a little bit about something that sounds like it's different than what James is saying. So I'm going to go in here and prove him wrong. Watch how much this guy is lying. So here's my video on, my content being gender neutral. I mentioned how the laws are neutral. And this guy named Pan Slayer says, unfortunately, Georgia is not gender neutral state unless you were married. So he's talking about when you go into court, you have to go to court and prove you got custody. Now, it is an extra step that's annoying that Georgia has, that you got to establish paternity even if you're on a birth certificate. In Washington and other states, you can walk in with a birth certificate, but you still have to go in there and fight. This guy is he's saying, oh, it's too long to try and gain his rights and blah, blah, blah. The father has to go to court. That's life, dude. Wake up. And he said, I've been alienated for 15 years. So this guy might be a guy who's half-assing it, barely paying attention to the law. He's not clear here. He knows a couple of laws, and he hasn't seen his kid for 15 years and been alienated. Did you fight when the child was, let's say the kid's 15 now. Did you fight when the child was 1 year old? Did you fight from the beginning? Did you go for full custody? Did you fight the right way? So you likely fought the losing way, and you're sitting here, you're sitting here saying Georgia's not gender neutral because of your experience losing. Now, let's take a look at what the law is. This guy's coming on my page and preaching some false doctrine and lying to my audience. That's what I have zero tolerance for. So when we actually looked at the law, Georgia Code Domestic Relations 19-9-3, go look it up for yourself. In all cases in which custody of a child is at issue, there shall be no prima facie right to the custody of the child in favor of the mother or the father. No presumption of full custody and all this other stuff. It says no right to the mother or father. That is gender neutral. This guy said the laws over there are not gender neutral. He said because of one tiny little incy-bincy aspect that he knows of, that you have to go to court and establish paternity with the court, then you can go for custody. But this is what I said. Once you're in court and once you're looking at the laws, they're gender neutral. So this guy is lying. Now, maybe he's well-intended. But you could be well-intended and say something that's a total lie because you're deceived, because you made up your own mind, or you have an emotional decision, or you're making an emotional reaction. Either way, it's a lie. They're said that they're not gender neutral because you have to go to court and it's assumed that the mother has custody until you go to court and establish paternity. Okay, then go and do that one easy step. And now it's to the gender neutral part. So don't come on my page lying, people. And then he says the lead attorney is speaking on Georgia law. While he is correct, the mother has to be dead to gain custody, and generally it should be easy. It can be a challenge. He's lying. Stop lying, you idiot. This must be a passerby who comes by my page and doesn't know anything about, and he can't even read because, look, it says, how I got custody. Father's rights and resources. My username is how I got custody. When I make comments in here, it's how I got custody. And this guy is saying she has to be dead. So when guys go in and they've lost or been alienated for 15 years, they're in their feelings and they're in their emotions, and they come on my page and lie and say, because it was so hard for me, you're just lucky, or it's because your baby's mom was a black crackhead, or it's because, you're white and had white privilege. I've had all the excuses. I had to work my ass off and I grew some balls and you didn't do it, and because you're a pussy, you're mad at me. I'm not saying that's this guy, but that's most guys' excuses. So he's got his mind made up that you have to be dead to gain custody. I've helped 300 guys get full custody. Now what, dude? 300 guys get full custody without an attorney. The lead attorney over here, and I'm going to show you a picture of him in case some of you don't. So there's the lead attorney, sellout house slave, the lead attorney. This guy is over here defending a house slave, saying he's right on this and right on that. Georgia law says the death of either parent the surviving parent's entitled to custody. And that's what he's talking about. This guy is defending this house slave who helped women destroy men so he can get money. And he's on his page laughing about everything and thinking it's funny. And he's full of shit most of the time. He would never debate me. He's too much of a pussy coward to do it. And he's lucky he didn't face me as a pro se. So stop coming on my page lying. Stop making up